and we're going to move to the last item, the panel discussion. And so, Peter, I believe you'll be facilitating us. So please go right ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Peter Boogaard, and a short introduction of myself. The first time I heard about Allotrope was on September 2012 in Milan, actually, when Gerard Nulken, then working for Pfizer, was announcing an initiative where the industry was looking for getting industry standards. So rather than suppliers and vendors working on this really came from the industry. This was for me an eye-opener. And I have been very pleased to be a member of that initial team to really announce the good idea and approach of the Allotrope in Europe. I am based in the Netherlands. I'm retired now, but I've been 40 plus years very active in laboratory automation. And I really like to say thank you very much to the Allotrope group, which I know pretty well from the past, to be facilitator. You will see on the screen 4 people in the group: Janet, Cheetham from Amgen, Allotrope member, Len, Vinny, and Graham. Not sure if you want to introduce yourself additionally, or shall we just jump into the questions? This is a question to the 4 people.
Yeah. I think we could just jump into the questions. I think the community knows folks here pretty well, and folks from Allotrope members are all part of the Allotrope Board of Directors, and Graham is the lead of the working group, so the APN working group.
Very good, excellent. So let me bounce off a couple of questions which we got through the board and through the chat room. To start with, the 3-day Connect schedule has been very strong, I would believe, and it's very good to see that Allotrope is now becoming from an idea into a real world. I mean, that's good, especially when we look to applications that's really there. Value creation, use cases, expanding the ADF access, and enabling new technology were the key topics in the last 3-day sessions. So I like to ask the audience is, what is your takeaway from this Connect meeting? What is one of your top liners during the last 3 days? Who likes to react on that? Janet, Len, Vinny, Graham, one of you?
I'm sorry, I thought that was the wider audience. Sure, I'll start. Yeah, so definitely the reflection. We always, when we're planning Connect events, we always look at the themes and what the sort of that spine is that we'll organize. And just being involved with Allotrope for approximately 5 years now, just seeing the evolution and the agendas from designing technology and spending a lot of time in our meetings when I first actively got involved, talking about the technology as we were picking it, designing it, putting it in place, and starting to see then it transition to some of the early applications and building out what we now term as our products, and now bringing on board staff who are helping drive with the community all the applications of Allotrope that you saw today in different parts of the framework. Many things driven from ontologies, others data models, different tooling to help somewhere along the way in that journey to go from current state to the future state in various paths and approaches, but to get to that same final state of compliant Allotrope files, and even a presentation that is starting to think about how we'll consume all these files. So just seeing that evolution, really the diversity and the shift to applications and folks asking the right questions. How do I go faster? How do I go easier? Because they're starting to internalize, how do I make the transition to the Allotrope future that we've all been working on for so many years. So just seeing that transition is really what sticks out to me. Every one of these meetings, it's just another step along the maturity curve. So it's just great to see.
Vinny, I've seen that in the audience today. We got people already part of from day one, part of the Allotrope. We got new members, we got potential new members as well. What is your advice? What's the advice? How to start? Where to start if I'm really excited and I want to be part of this? How to start?
Sure. I mean, I can begin, and then I'll certainly turn it over to my colleagues for additional thoughts. I think beginning certainly is as you're learning about the community, one of the most important assets, products I think we have as a community is the community that stayed together. So the first place to get started is reach out to our product team. They're online with you. Amnon, Basay, Matthew Fox, Ben Wolford-Lim. Reach out to them. They'll be able to give you lots of information. Reach out to our secretariat, to the officers of the foundation. So use the community. And then second, I think as you look at the technologies, you're seeing more and more tooling that helps you along. But I think as the theme that certainly resonates with me as a member of the community and as a Merck member, the place I think where the technology can intercept anyone's digital journey is beginning with the ontologies, because those are certainly things that in whichever format they're served up in, whatever your exact digital plan is or where you are in it, you can always begin standardizing your data with the terminology. So I think that's always the lowest hanging fruit for me. So connect with the community to get information and take a look at the ontologies as a starting point.
Thank you. So Janet, may I ask you, if you look back to how does this align with the company strategy, this whole Allotrope aspect? Can you share some experiences?
Can you hear me, Peter?
Yes, I can hear you now. Very
okay,
good.
Sorry, there was a double muting going on there. So I think, maybe to answer both questions, give a little bit more of a perspective on, Vinny's comments, and then to talk about, our journey within sort of Amgen specifically, is I think one place to start, and I don't think there's ever been a better time to start than now in terms of the number of different places at which it's possible to start the journey for Allotrope within your own company. And I think what you've seen in the Connect series is through this particular forum is many, many different ways in which you can start to leverage the Allotrope framework within the company and many different starting points. I think the other thing is, which I think is really important, is to take the content of the Connect meeting from this fall and reflect it into your own company's journey around digital transformation. The experience that I had at Amgen was that it's a continuous education journey across the organization, and the framework, as you've seen from the presentations today and over the Connect series, the framework is a continually evolving digital asset. And so looking at where that asset can first drive value within your own company, aligned with your digital strategy, not just what you can do within the next couple of weeks, but your journey over the next 2 to 3 years, I think is a critical first step. The other thing that I think is really important is some of the concepts around Allotrope. For example, what we saw today, the journey from a standard format and framework to being able to power visualization and analytics, is, I think, very compelling. And I think it's part of an internal data literacy education to help people understand beyond the format, the value of contextualization of data. And from my journey, once that value of contextualization of data and the understanding that it was a journey over multiple years was recognized, we found really good engagement and sponsorship from leadership.
So can you give a good example? For example, so what the "what's in it for me" question is then being answered by other people in your organization, Janet? Is that how I can phrase that?
Yes, I think the what's in it for me, right, is it's a new way of working with data, right? And I think one of the things that's important and that I found is it's a continuous conversation. What's in it for me now? What's in it for me later? And what investment do I need to make now in order to achieve that investment? So, our journey, it took probably 3 years to get the Allotrope data format as part of our strategy for data across our operations labs, then extending into R&D. That was a 3-year journey, but we started small in one lab with a focus on solving one current business problem, which was interoperability of a very small part of data, for example.
This sound, at least from my end here, is disappearing a little bit. Janet, can you rephrase?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's better.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, so I think it's important that it's not just something that you have one conversation in the business. You go away, execute a project, and you're done. Because what's happening in the world of data is changing so rapidly. It needs to be a continuous conversation and a partnership in co-developing the what's in it for me.
Len, are you giving your experiences with to adopt a standard? Because to have a standard is great, but to adopt it and use it is probably one of the key things which makes it a successful story. What are your experiences within Biogen?
So Peter, I don't believe Len's on the line.
Okay, then I'm okay. Sorry about that. I didn't know that. Another thing what I realized is the fact that you only can adopt standards if you get partnerships through the clients, the pharmaceutical and biotech companies here, but also with suppliers. So I'd like to ask Graham to get his feedback and experiences with being a supplier and be part of this community. What are the takeaways?
Thank you, Peter. I would say that the word that was brought up earlier was community, and there are a variety of partners and members with different interests as they try to address their strategic objectives that Janet was talking about. And what I've seen over the past few days is that partners are involved in this one step at a time process. Paul talked about efficiencies, and I think that's where the partners are meeting the members as part of the Allotrope, transformation. The digital transformation is to help with each of those steps, and then as we become more efficient, to help power the overall visualization gains that Janet referred to. So different partners will interact in their different ways. Some of them might be on those early converter stages, some of them might be more in the data management. And it's really about creating an environment where partners can see opportunities with the members. So some of the members were presenting their strategic and their business reasons, and that was mentioned by somebody early on. If there's an understanding of what is important to member business, then partners can figure out whether they have the technologies and capacities to address those in joint efforts.
Vinny, would you be able to share with us the strategy within Allotrope to go forward and to get more engagements and involvement of external and internal partners within the Allotrope organization?
Sure. Thanks, Pierre. I'd be happy to. So I think just building off of some of the comments from my colleagues, so the community, again, is critically important. So everything we do, we really need to do together. I think we've seen lots of great examples of starting points, but ultimately we need to drive that common vision through standards. So that's the most important part, and take that messaging of that both through what we're doing as a community, what we're doing independently as companies on our respective journeys, again, towards that same goal, and keep messaging that out to the broader community. It means reaching out to other pharma partners who perhaps are not engaged yet, certainly to other members with those use cases, those opportunities, clear messaging of the progress that the foundation is making, out to the various providers in the commercial space, those who integrate systems, those who produce control software for hardware, those in academia, which is definitely a group which hopefully folks saw in the earlier days of the Connect presentations, where a more active role in 2021, bringing the Allotrope message to the academic community, who we think can greatly benefit from some of the technologies and some of the applications. So in 2021, you're going to see a concerted effort of getting our messages out there through hopefully our best examples of ultimately less messages about the specific technologies, more messages about the application of the technologies to solving real world problems that move the needle. I think all of us are in a similar situation where we have limited capacity, limited time, and we have scientific questions that we have to answer that are enabling, and we need to get the best value for the the time and for the resources that we invest in R&D. And so that really is going to be the message of Allotrope to the community, to try to welcome more and more into the community. You can see it's very diverse. We need all parts of the community to contribute, and together we'll move the vision forward. But it's really about moving that digital needle for everyone and showing applications of the framework to solve problems that really make a difference. I think that's what folks will see in 2021, more applications to making a difference.
Thank you very much. I was very impressed by Monica's presentation earlier today about the way how the Allotrope Foundation strategy was fitting a real business case. Janet, do you see additional business cases where you say this is something we should be focusing on within Allotrope and within our community?
Yes, I think what was, to me, very powerful around that presentation from Monica was that the business need was basically to create velocity in automation, analysis of data, and feedback into the modeling loop, right? And what was, I think, opportunistic was that the framework put together the three components of, raw data, right? But then importantly, metadata, right? That makes the data more powerful for the type of machine learning applications that she was sharing. It sort of was a meet of a business need and a readiness of the technology. But I think the other thing that was very powerful about that demonstration was that the use case was end to end. So it went from reimagining how raw data at scale, which was one of the problem statements, could become high quality, automated data pipeline at the end of the process for advanced analytics and then visualization and decision making. And so I think those three components, I think, if you look within your own organizations, are probably present in many places. And so I was definitely motivated to go back within my own company and look for new use cases and opportunities for ourselves for the data framework as it exists today.
Graham, do you like to add additional feedback from the supplier, from the vendor perspective here?
I think the only thing that I would add in that was to fill in on the end-to-end pipeline. As partners, we know that given our diversity, as was mentioned, that there are different partners who could contribute to end-to-end solutions in different ways. And that's, again, that goes back to community, to transform with multiple partners, understanding the value of the business case for each partner, seeing a role in creating an overall process is really important. And because Allotrope is about data, the flow of data in that end-to-end automation, maybe automation but overall process pipeline will obviously be key.
Okay.
And maybe
Yep.
to just build just one final point on both Janet and Graham. So I think as we focus more and more on those end-to-end use cases and solving those problems, I think where Allotrope has certainly began from, which is standardizing the output of instrumentation. I think we will see the natural transition, and the community will grow commiserate to it. We'll see that natural transition as we solve more of those end-to-end problems. You'll need to create the structure and context around information, not only that comes off an instrument, but certainly the surrounding experiment in which the instrument is a key piece of data that's collected during the experiment. So I think you will also see Allotrope models starting to go into a little bit into the experimental space as well, because we need to create that broader context as we go along, not only to standardize the instrument output, but also to put it in a consistent frame for the experiment in which it's captured in, so that the queries that are possible, the kind of explorations of your data that we all are driving towards as our vision, and that interoperability, so those will be realizable. So I think you'll also see some of the data models going into the experimental space as well.
Very well. You mentioned the word end-to-end cases. I think this is my personal point of view, that is a must-have if you really want to do a full digital transformation. Otherwise, you're losing rich content, which probably is something you want to address to reuse. What my final question for today's for this session here, and I'd like to ask everybody on the team here to give their vision on that, is how do these 3 days talks influence your thinking? Janet?
Okay, so from my perspective, the talks over the last 3 days reinforce the conviction that Amgen had as a company, that the combination of community and technology around rethinking data is alive and well and accelerating within Allotrope. And so from my perspective, I come away from the 3 days thinking that some of the things that I thought might be possible 12 to 18 months from now may be possible within the next 6 months. And then the second thing that I take away from it is how critical the community partnership is, not just between, the members from the biopharmaceutical companies, but, to Graham and Vinny's point, the community within the vendors, right? Whether it's hardware, software, system integrators, together we are well positioned now to go into the next sort of phase of the journey. So I'm excited. I have a lot of to-dos on my list that I take away from the sort of the last virtual connected 3 days. And I think, we go into the spring with a lot of opportunity ahead of us. And so I'm very appreciative of all the presenters and the ideas that they've given me. And I hope that as a community, we can share even more ideas as we move forward into 2021.
Thank you very much. Graham,
Thanks, Peter. I'm inspired too by what I've seen, and that allows us to go back internally to our various organizations. I speak as a partner, but I'm sure the other partners are looking at what's been reported today and in the previous couple of days of the Connect, and they're thinking, I see something that our company could do, and I think that's very exciting for what we're going to try to achieve as part of Allotrope over the coming year. And at difficult times, so to be upbeat about something is a good thing.
Thank you very much. Vinny, I'd like to ask you to give your feedback, and also then, as far as I'm concerned, closing the session. Before doing that, I'd like to share my takeaway, because I've been today and also on the Monday session, I've been listening to the presentations, and for me, it's amazing to see that when it was started in 2012, I think in June 4, right? That was the start of the Allotrope official action. It's great to see that so many years later now it's real. It becomes a real community. It is not something which is an idea, but it's something concrete. And I think that's an extreme, very strong achievement from everybody who has been involved in this approach. And that is my takeaway message, that the dream is becoming true. That is, I like to share that. And Vinny, I would like to ask you to close this session with your influence thinking of the 3-day talks.
Absolutely, thank you, Peter. And I won't repeat a lot, because I think my colleagues, including Peter, have just done a tremendous job encapsulating everything that I really felt for the time as well. Allotrope is alive and well. I will end where I began with. It's always been about the community, and it will remain about the community. There's just so much opportunity here. It is no longer, I agree, Peter, it is no longer a dream. It's real. We are Allotrope. It is right in front of us now. And I would maybe transition it to, we've worked hard to get to this point, and now we have a responsibility to see it through to the vision. A responsibility to the scientific community, to the patients we serve, for those of us in pharma and potentially other industries, because we do have the technologies and we have shown some of the tooling that shows scalability. And now I think we have a responsibility and accountability to apply and to make that vision a reality for all. So with that, I thank all the speakers, the organizers, another great virtual event. I miss not seeing everyone in person and networking, but I think the team does a great job organizing these virtual events, and it's the next best thing. I thank everyone. I wish everyone well, and as well run as the virtual session was, I sincerely hope that we're all together in the spring doing it in person somewhere. So be well, everyone. Take care of yourself. Be safe, and we will be speaking with you soon. Take care.